In today's video, I'll be showing you how to replace the glass on another Apple Watch. I realized that I hadn't yet posted a video of a Series 5 40mm Apple Watch glass repair, so that's what we're going to do today. This particular watch came all the way from Sri Lanka, so we're going to fix this one and get this one all the way back across the other side of the world. Let's get started.
So the first thing that I'm going to do is take a pair of tweezers and carefully pick at any shard of glass that is no longer attached to the display. I'm going to speed through a lot of this because otherwise it'd be a long, boring video, well over an hour. I'll also take a piece of plastic that's fairly rigid and yet flexible enough for me to slide it in between the glass shards and the force touch that goes around the frame of the watch. Using these two methods together, I should be able to, with patience and extreme tediousness, work my way around and under the glass to separate the display from the frame. If I apply too much pressure, or I'm not careful with where I'm putting the plastic or the tweezers, I may end up damaging the display or the digitizer. We'll also go ahead and test it to make sure that it still works. We'll want to test the touch and also observe the display for any defects. The touch can be tested by simply dragging the power off button around the screen from corner to corner. Apple has done something new with the Series 5 40mm. They have put a metal plate over the battery. I'm assuming this is for expansion, seeing as in all of the previous models the batteries have expanded, and seeing as there's less space inside the smaller watch, it would eventually push the screen out, and I believe this metal will give it a year or two longer. The battery may still die quickly, but at least the screen won't pop out. Applying some isopropyl alcohol and using some finer tweezers, I'm able to pick at this sticker and remove it from the back of the screen. Then with a little bit more isopropyl alcohol and tweezers, I can carefully pick at the stickers that are covering each one of these connectors. I try to save these stickers so that in the end I can have a clean finish, but that doesn't mean that they will, in every case, peel back and be pristine once again. They're not that important, but it's just one thing I like to try to do. We'll also want to flip up each one of those connectors and also peel back the copper sticker a little bit. This will help us when we go to install the screen, allowing us to have better access to the each one of the flex cables to push it back into the connectors. Now, using the tweezers, I will carefully flip up the latches there, and then very carefully and firmly pull back on all the cables and they will slide out.
Now that we have successfully removed the screen from the watch, we're going to go ahead and pull the glass off the display. Now this is typically where people go wrong. For those of you that have seen my previous videos, I've gone into depth as into some of the issues that you might find when pulling the glass. A couple of them are damaging the digitizer and losing partial touch or things like that, and so you'll have to replace the digitizer, and sometimes you damage the display. And if you damage the display, you might as well just get a new one. I mean, these displays are fairly expensive, so buying a new display is comparable sometimes to even buying a new watch. So if you're going to attempt this repair, have previous experience doing something like this. I've had so many people that watch the videos think that they can simply do the repair, because I mean, I don't mean to, but it does come off somewhat easy when you see a 15-minute video of me doing it. It takes hours to do. Obviously, I'm speeding up a lot of the video, but kind of as a disclaimer, have experience if you're going to try this, because the chances that something goes wrong during the repair are pretty high. Now, I will be putting together a course where I'm going to be teaching a handful of people how to replace the glass on the watches and do other things like the solder jobs, just in general how to tear down the watches and how to repair them successfully and make money in the process and turn it into a business. I've helped dozens and dozens of people successfully replace the glass on their watches. I've helped people get over hurdles that they run into where they tear cables, they damage the watch in a way where they don't have the ability to fix it, and I either fix it for them or I teach them how to do it. So I'm putting together a course. If you're interested, email me for this, maybe for your own personal thing where you want to just have a side gig where you fix up Apple Watches for people, or you buy broken Apple Watches, you fix them and you sell them, making money that way. Or maybe you're a company out there that realizes that there's a benefit to this. I mean, something I've noticed from my company in particular is when somebody realizes that I can fix a watch and no one else can, especially in this area or even outside of this area, they will bring me the other business, like phones, tablets, computers, other things that we do here at the shop. And so, I mean, I have people mailing me their phones for repair when I'm like, well, why don't you just go to the local guy? I'm sure he can do, repair an iPhone for you. But no, they want to send it to me. Even, I mean, last week someone sent me an iPhone from Alaska because I fixed their watch. And it's like, okay, well, that's like a week plus with shipping time and everything. Like, I'll do it, but, And so it basically, repairing these is nice because it puts you one step above your competitors in the area. Once people know that you can do something that the other companies won't, then you gain the business, for the phones, the iPads, whatever it is that you're doing other than this. This, however, happens to be a much more profitable repair. One of the reasons why not many companies are doing it is just because it is a high-risk repair. Whereas if something goes wrong, which it very, very well can unless you are trained and have plenty of experience doing it, confident enough that you can do it for every customer that walks in. If you damage them, then it's not going to be profitable. I probably went through, you can kind of see, what I've done, and I'll be putting this up in a video if I haven't already, but you see these, this little artwork that I have over here, or right over here, this map. What I've kind of done is I haven't gotten all of them up there, but you can see each one of these little pins is an Apple Watch that I fixed and mailed back to the customers. You can see that California, fairly congested. There we got Phoenix, in Arizona, up there in Washington, Chicago, a lot in New York, New Jersey, Florida. All over the entire U.S. and even outside. I haven't yet mapped out all of the ones that have come in from outside. But this is a profitable repair because the cost of the repair is low. The risk of breaking is really high because the price that I charge for this repair happens to be way less than the cost of the display. So if I break the display, no matter what the customer pays me, I'm not going to make back the money I spent on just replacing the display. So I better get it right. But that price point is where, is at such a point where people will send a repair in from Sri Lanka, for example, like this one, or Australia, or anywhere in the U.S., Canada. You name it. I've almost hit every country. Well, there's probably a handful I haven't even thought of, and you can see more on this side and down here on my desk. I've kind of what I've done is I've saved the pieces of glass, and because they're so small, they're easy to save, and that way I can turn it into art. But yeah, this type of repair is quite fun. You can see right here, here's just some of the ones that I've done this last week. that are still going. But anyway, well, let's get back to doing the glass on this screen so you guys can see how that's done.
Now we'll take a piece of tape and I'll put it down on the screen with one of the corners exposed so that I can insert the wire. I've got this set at 83 degrees Celsius. It's fairly hot. And then I'm going to secure this piece of tape on either side so that they don't catch on the wire and help hold the screen down, even though there is already suction. I'm using a 0.04 millimeter wire. I'll carefully insert it at the corner. I've been using a technique that I've perfected. I will carefully move the wire around the screen. It's important and imperative that you understand how much give and take you can have on each one of these wires. And then I also position the heat plate to accommodate the ways that I'm pulling on either side of the wire, whether or not I'm pulling with my right hand or my left hand, and I'm able to guide the wire around because I don't want to damage the display or the digitizer in the process. And the wire being so thin, it is necessary first to cut through, but also can cut through those layers and ruin the display if not done properly. There's the glass, all off. We still have a little bit of adhesive, and down there in that corner we will still have a little bit of glass that we need to pick off. Carefully rubbing with my thumb, I should be able to roll the adhesive off, and being careful to make sure that the adhesive doesn't have little shards of glass in it, I can wipe it away with a clean room wipe and a little bit of acetone. And on this piece of adhesive down at the bottom, there are a few shards of glass. So I want to make sure I'm extra careful because I don't want to scratch the digitizer, because that can affect the touch functionality of this display. And we would have to replace the digitizer on this watch, and I don't like to have to do that. So when possible, I'll avoid it. And it's a good thing to have a little bit of nail here. To have a little longer nails than I'd normally like to have, but it helps me pick at things that I otherwise couldn't grab. And this situation is probably going to call for me to use my tweezers. As long as I'm careful and don't scratch the digitizer and carefully pick at just the shards of glass, I should be able to successfully remove that last piece of adhesive without damaging anything. The trick is patience when it comes to these repairs, having patience and attention to detail, understanding the limits that these displays have when it comes to the different tensions that you can apply to them. We'll clean it with a little bit of acetone, make it nice and pretty again. You can see we're all good, no scratches, nothing like that. I'll go ahead and I'll stick that down on this little stand that I have. These are wax stands. They're fairly pliable. They are slightly sticky so that the display doesn't shift around a lot. Wipe off any fingerprints. We're going to apply a little bit of our Loca. The Loca is liquid optical clear adhesive. It's what's going to allow us to adhere the glass to this display. Then I'll take our new piece of glass and I'm going to carefully clean it to make sure that we don't have any dust. It's hard to tell whether or not the dust on this glass is on the top or the bottom, so I like to clean both sides thoroughly, and I do that again using acetone with a clean room wipe. Now this next part is where I have to be careful because I want to set the screen down extremely slowly, and if you're wondering if the video is paused, it is not. It is me simply being extremely careful and approaching it at a very slow pace. I want to watch the Loca only touch the glass in one spot and then it will spread, and if I do it correctly, I won't have any bubbles entrapped in the Loca, and therefore under the glass. And getting those bubbles out is a pain, and typically means I have to lift the glass again and do it all over again. There we go, finally. I was careful enough to do it without getting any bubbles, and you'll be able to see that the Loca has kind of pancaked out. Wiggling around the glass and getting it to settle in will allow the glass to align with the display. And later we'll make sure it's dead center, that it's aligned on all corners and sides. And while we let that naturally sit into place, I'm going to carefully clean up the Force Touch, all of the old adhesive and last glasses of shards of glass. It's almost to the corners, but not quite there. I'm going to help it along by giving it a little pressure in each corner, and we'll allow that adhesive to move towards each corner. You can see if I push down just gently, just barely. I don't want to push down too hard, otherwise we'll get the Loca to squeeze out, and it'll end up on the back of the display, and then it becomes a sticky mess. As you can see, it's still clean on the back. Alright, I'll turn my light back on. We're also going to apply a little bit of a UV light to this so that we can solidify it. So here I am under my microscope, just watching those bubbles go out as I push on them gently. Some are a little bit more stubborn than others and like to come back, so pushing on them a couple times will help. Once I've gotten the bubbles out, I'll apply a direct UV light, and what I'll do here is, while I'm applying the light, I have a certain amount of time before the Loca starts to cure, and it'll become harder and harder to move the display. And so as I adjust it from corner to corner, and if I see any bubbles pushing them out, I should be able to align the display perfectly with the edge of the glass, therefore making it look perfect when we're done. After enough time under this light, and I know that it's not going to move any, we're going to put it under a different light that I have. This light I use when I'm doing larger batches. You can see there's a couple in there I'm already doing. But we'll go ahead and set this in there and let it cook under that light for an hour or so. We'll also rotate it now. Now we're all done. We'll go ahead and clean it. It was a quick hour, I'll tell you what. Clean up the edges, just in case. Although this one was really clean. Then we'll move to connecting the display. Now, had I not pulled back the copper, this would be a little bit more difficult. And you can see in some of my other videos, clear my hand's a little in the way here, but I'm able to push the connectors in using these little wings that the flex cables have, and then I'll click down all the connectors, and we'll go ahead and test it and turn it on for the first time since putting the glass on. There we go. Got the Apple logo. And of course, when it comes on, we're going to test for the touch. We'll be doing that again by sliding the power button around each corner. There we go. Nice and perfect. Now that we know that works, we're going to go ahead and push the copper sticker back down and peel up those little stickers and put them back over the connectors. To the best of our abilities, making it look as pretty as possible. And I apologize again for my hand being in the way there. Next, I'm going to use some of this adhesive. I've explained in other videos why I like this adhesive. Basically, in a gist, it's the best adhesive I've found to create the best seal on this watch. We'll line up the antenna there which is really the only difference visually from the Series 4 and 5 screen on the back. Clamp it down, and then we'll go ahead and clean up the edge with a little bit of acetone. Any of the spill out that we had there.
So now that we've got it all clamped up and finished, I'm going to let this probably sit for about 12 hours or so, just to make sure that we have that even pressure distributed as the adhesive seals. I want to make sure that I get the best seal possible that I can on it. I don't, there's no way for me to know how water resistant it now is. Typically when a watch gets damaged, I tell the customers to avoid getting it wet, because there are several other places that water can enter other than under the screen, through the buttons, the speakers, the microphone. Like, there's plenty of places that the water can enter, and so after it gets damaged, I just say avoid it. I do seal it to the best of my abilities, just to make sure that, to give it the best shot, the best chance it has at with an accidental spill or something like that. The courses that I'm going to be doing, we're going to be going over the how to remove all of the glass on all of the different series and sizes. Each one has its own little, each one presents its own difficulties, each model, and each watch itself, the way that it's cracked, whether or not it's one crack or severely cracked, each repair is unique unto itself. Each one it's kind of like solving a puzzle each time. The repair isn't the exact, you don't do the repair the exact same way, the way that you manipulate the wire to remove the glass, the way you remove the display. Each one presents problems, and learning how to solve them is quite the challenge. I mean, I've repaired well over 1,000 watches at this point, and in the amount that I've had to spend in mistakes, in gaining the knowledge that I have, probably over $10,000 in mistakes. But I mean, with 1,000 repairs, you can do the math. It took a while to get there, and so my hope is that in doing a course where I can have people come, or I mean, a couple times I've gone out to companies, depending on how serious they are in wanting to get into this. I've actually flown out, and for a couple days I teach them the different repairs that they like. But I've realized that getting a bunch together in a course might be better, because that way I can address all of the questions they have. You'll spend a couple days with me going over all the different repairs that have to do with the watches, so that you're successful. Because what I don't want you guys to have to spend $10,000+ on mistakes. I'd rather that you not make mistakes, and that if you do end up making mistakes, hopefully only ones that are fixable, you'll be able to do those without having to panic and ship it off to someone like me, for example, who can fix it, and making it so that the repair takes longer and the customer is unhappy. I want to give you guys the knowledge to do these repairs yourself, do them confidently, to grow your business, to expand, to attract more business, and do things like I've been able to do. So if you want to know more information about those courses, I'll put my email in the description. Just go ahead and email me, and we'll go from there. And if you'd like to send your watch in for repair, go ahead and email me a picture of the watch. Just have the display fully lit up so that I can see if there's any damage to the display. If the touch is working perfectly, you can assume, and the display is fine, you can assume that's just a glass repair. So when you visit my website, which I'll link down below as well, you can see the prices on the particular model, whether or not it's a Series 1 all the way up to the new Series 5, and so on. So check that out. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe. I've got some things in the working. They're going to be fun. So I'll see you in the next video.